Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Glow Podcast. I'm here today with a very exciting guest. I have Dr. Shawn Rowland from JASE. And if you are new here, we partner with organizations in the healthcare, longevity, and wellness space to fuel growth through strategic marketing strategies. So if you are interested, drop a comment below. I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming on. If you would, I would love if you would just kind of go ahead and introduce yourself so the audience knows who you are.
Certainly. Thank you, Taylor. It's a privilege to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. Uh, my name is Dr. Shawn Rowland. I'm a board certified family medicine physician and the founder of JASE Medical, which we started about 5 years ago.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. And for those in the audience who kind of aren't familiar, I guess, with Jace and the business that you've built, it would be great if you would kind of explain a little bit more of why you started the company, why you thought it was in need in the market.
So our mission is to empower everyone to be better prepared medically. It could be a pretty, I guess, ambitious mission because medical preparedness can mean so many things. But kind of the genesis of this, for me as a primary care physician, being kind of at the front lines of our healthcare system, this goes back pre-COVID when basically I working in a community hospital. I'm in an underserved part of the country as far as healthcare goes. Most of our patients were Medicare, Medicaid, and seeing at that time shortages of some of the most important and the most vital medications that we would use in the hospital on a daily basis,
Yeah.
and having the pharmacists tell us that they're in short supply. Prior to COVID, this was so unheard of. Anything in life being in short supply. You know, we lived in the land of milk and honey, and here in the United
Yeah.
States, we get what we want when we want it. And in our healthcare system, it's second to none. And here I am being told I can't prescribe this really important antibiotic. It's one of the most important ones that we use when we don't know exactly the bacteria that this person's infected, but we know they're really sick, and they've got hours to start a treatment before they die. And having that medication not be around was this really, I guess, life-changing and eye-opening experience. And fast forward a little bit more into COVID, and now everything's in short supply.
Yeah.
And along the way, what I found out was that in the United States, we're so dependent on overseas productions of our pharmaceuticals, not just pharmaceutical, I should say, not just things like antibiotics, everything.
Yeah.
Anything you take as a daily medication, even your vitamin C from Whole Foods, for heaven's sake, gets a component, that the vital component is not from the United States. Most of their components are coming from China. They're being produced in India, China, and other countries around the world. But here in the United States, we have virtually no production capacity of generic medications, which account for 90% of what we take every day. So that was very concerning, obviously, and COVID happened. Along the way, compound this issue with supply chain with just access to healthcare. And anyone listening who's had any interaction with a primary care physician in the last few years knows that you can't just call up your doctor and set an appointment for next day or next week. And I've had patients who've told me, who've come to me saying that just for a run-of-the-mill primary care appointment, it's taken 6, 8, 10 weeks to get
Yeah.
to get an appointment. So the access is also just becoming harder and harder. And when you do finally see the physician, how long do you get to spend with them? 5, 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You might be there for longer, but the actual face-to-face time with the physician, it's 5 or 10 minutes. So this is another issue. And ultimately what happened is I started my own private practice. I started a direct primary care kind of practice where it was cash pay only. Patients would pay a membership fee and they would get unlimited access to me 24/7. I
Oh,
loved
that's
this model.
awesome.
Yeah, it cut out insurance. I no longer had to see patients for 10 minutes because I only make a few bucks per patient. I've got to make a living, right?
Yeah.
I've got to be able to put food on the table for my family. And the insurance company's dictating how I care for my patients and how much time. And you come in to tell me something's going on, and I can only address that thing. The human body is not made just in compartments like that where I can address this one issue it's a holistic system.
For sure.
And things going on in your gut have to do with things going on in your heart and your brain, and I didn't want to have to be in those constraints. So in that private practice, as a part of that, for the first time, I was had to be exposed. Actually, this is not a part of medical education. Doctors don't know there's a purposeful separation between the care you're providing and what it's actually costing the patient. And
Yeah.
it's wrong, flat out wrong. But until I was in private practice, I just didn't know. But now I was exposed. I could see the true cost of the medications because I had to get them for my own practice. I was ordering medications for my patients. I was ordering labs for my patients. For the first time, I saw that when I ordered a complete blood panel for a patient, it was costing maybe $8, maybe if
Yeah,
that,
that's crazy.
right? And this patient's getting charged hundreds and hundreds of dollars for the same test from, at least that's what the bill shows. It's not what the insurance company's
Yeah.
paying, but that's what they want you to think they're paying. So that is another part of this. So you've got supply chain, you've got access to the physicians, and then you've got the true cost of healthcare. And all of those were probably that's we could call that like the triad that just caused me to say, stop. What something here needs to change.
Yeah.
I
How
saw
can we
in
do this differently?
how can we do it differently? And how can I, as solitary family physician in Utah with a new practice, what am I going to do to change the system? But it was COVID. And and it was early in COVID, there was a lot of uncertainty. We were about to head into the dark winter of where we were going to have flu on top of COVID. And it was, there was so much fear and uncertainty. And I'm there too, and I'm feeling a part of this.
For sure.
Well, I said, I'm going to get totally prepared. My practice, my patients, and my family, we're going to have what we need, at least from like a medication standpoint, supplies that way. And as I said, found out that that was actually really accessible. It wasn't that expensive to get there. But I immediately felt really guilty because I was like, okay, we're set. My patients are good.
Yeah.
Well, my parents weren't, my neighbors weren't, but the rest of the community wasn't, and I felt that. And so I spent the next year going through how can I take this model to the masses? How can we really, and so that's where kind of this medical preparedness for everyone became a thing. And I started specifically, very purposely, with antibiotics. Our first thing was the JASE case, and it's 5 antibiotics. Everyone at one point or another in their life will probably need to take an antibiotic
Yeah.
if they haven't already. And so not everyone has high blood pressure, not everyone has diabetes, all these other things that people need in their healthcare world.
Yeah.
This was something that could apply to everyone. And again, compound all those things, the access to it from a supply chain issue, from getting a prescription from your doctor. So that was our go to market. That was the first thing we were going to do to empower people. I'm huge on education. We paired all this with, I curated the right kinds of medications that are affordable, that will cover the right things, pair that with medication, with education. And then from there, we've just grown, but that's how we started.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. I know. And when I was first hearing about Jace, I was like, this would be so helpful, like when you go and travel,
Especially,
because,
yeah.
yeah, because you won't be worried, when you're traveling, you're coming into contact with so many different germs that you're not exposed to on a daily basis, being on an airplane, on a bus, or, just whatever. And I know, like, for myself and probably so many other people, they've gotten sick before when they're traveling, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm out of the country, or I'm in a
Exactly.
different state, like I have no access to any kind of medical provider unless I go to the urgent care, and then how long is it going to take for them to fill my prescription? Are they even going to be able to?
And actually that was kind of the first thing to come to. It was okay. How do we do this? And of course, I'm thinking, well, as a physician, I get calls all the time from a patient who says, "Hey, I'm going on a trip with my husband, and we're going to be out of the country. Could I get something in case I get a UTI?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Of course you can, and here you go." And so they're not sick with the UTI, but I know their health history. We've got this relationship, and so here you go. Here's your medication before you need it. And
Yeah.
so it was just building off of that. And now you don't have to have that, a great relationship with your family physician. You don't have to, just all the pieces that we kind of laid out there to make it so that legally and medically, ethically, like this is something that can and should be done for the reasons. I mean, you stated a few great reasons. I mean, travel is huge. It's
Yeah.
one of the biggest ones that we put, that you're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, you don't, just whatever, all the different variables there. And certainly we've had a lot of testimonials from patients whose trips have been saved, any number of really, and that's one of the best, probably one of my favorite things about doing this is like daily we get people who write in and email us or call us about that just testimonials about how amazing the service has been for them, and that's been very heartwarming.
Yeah, no, that's super, super awesome. Because, yeah, I'm sure it saved a lot of trips or like even people having to wait, however
Yeah.
long to get a prescription. And so, what is kind of like the ease like with getting a prescription? Because obviously, for the antibiotics, you would need a prescription, I'm assuming, or what does that process kind of look like?
Yes, definitely. When you get your order, everything's individually prescribed with your name and the dosage instructions. It's dispensed from a licensed pharmacy that's licensed to do business in whatever state you're coming from, which means they had to receive a prescription from a licensed physician from
Yeah.
your state as well. And so that's the process. Again, I talked about that triad. And so what we've done is okay, we're going to address the supply chain issue. We're going to get people these medications before they need them, but we're going to pair it with good education so they know how and when to use them. We're going to pair them with a physician who can prescribe it and support them. So there's the access. And then last is the cost. We are going to approach pharmacies. We now have our own pharmacy, but we're going to pair with pharmacies. We know the true cost of these medications, pharmacy, and so don't try and pass, don't try and raise your prices, and we're going to pass those savings on to the customer because they're paying out of pocket. So
Yeah.
it makes the whole process very streamlined. It addresses all those three biggest issues, and really the goal has been to just make it as frictionless as possible. And so we bring the doctor, we bring the pharmacy, we bring it all,
Yeah.
and you just have to log on and take 10 minutes of your time to do it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And are a lot of people too surprised like by the prices like you were originally when you were looking at
Well,
them when
this
you
is
started
interesting.
your
Yeah,
practice?
no, let me give you the honest answer to that. I think most people feel like they're walking into Walgreens and picking up a bottle of Tylenol off the shelf, and that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
Actually, going to going to a doctor. So whatever that doctor fee, if you're going to go see your doctor for a routine visit, whether it's 100, $150, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you're then taking those prescriptions. And in the case of our new JASE case, that's ten medications that
Okay.
you're then going to the pharmacy, and you're going to pay retail rates on all those medications. I think at first, some people at first glance were like, "Oh, this still seems really expensive." But when you take all that into consideration,
Yeah.
basically you're talking about $1,000 plus to get what we're providing for $270.
Yeah, that's not bad at
So
all.
it is. Yeah, I think most people see the value and get it. But every once in a while, we have to remind them it's not just the meds. You're getting
Yeah.
ongoing support with the doctor. You're getting the education as far as like the manual and how to use these, and you're getting the doctor visit itself plus all the meds.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And so, how kind of throughout the history of the business and everything, how have people kind of found out about you all? Like, are people just referring? A lot of people are kind of, what does that look like?
So we early on really relied heavily on kind of influencer campaigns, influencer marketing. What we found was this was something that there's a steep education curve. This is something people hadn't heard of or didn't
Yeah.
understand the process. Maybe they'd never done telemedicine, or they didn't know they could even get these things like this. And so being first to market presents those challenges, and that you're the one doing a lot of the education in the marketplace. Certainly years from now, it'll be commonplace and people will just know. So what that means for us though is that, doing things like just a quick display ad doesn't work so great. So we needed long form opportunities. So we found that in influencers where you had time to do just like we're doing in this podcast, where you can sit, answer questions in a more holistic, complete way. So podcasts, influencers, just anything in a long form format worked really well. I mean, it's because when people do hear it, the light bulb goes off. It's a wow, why has this never been done? Okay, amazing. Where do I go? But they need to be walked through a little bit of that before they get there.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. If you just saw like an ad for it on social media or wherever, you'd be like, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
kind of confused. But
I don't
then,
have a UTI, so I don't need to click on this button
yeah,
because you think it's just a traditional, like, come here if you have a UTI, and that's not what it is.
yeah, no, exactly. But then when they actually hear the explanation of it, they're like, oh, wait, that would have been really useful on
Yeah.
my travel or, whatever and stuff,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
And so, what are your goals kind of over like the next year or two? What are you guys focused on over there with expansion and growth?
Yeah, so the mission of medical preparedness, as I said before, is really can encompass a lot. We started with those antibiotics and emergency kind of medications, and then we grew into the daily chronic medications to get people a year's supply of whatever their daily medication is. and we're continuing to kind of add on to that list, and now we're actually into really overall wellness. We're talking about even food storage and water storage, things that in an emergency that you would need for your well-being, your physical well-being. And then we're just now, as of literally days ago, really excited because we just released our first aid kits. And the
Oh,
reason I'm
wow.
really excited about them is these are a first of their kind in the marketplace. First aid kits have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
What's never been done though is pairing them with prescription medication, the same prescription medications that professionals use, that Army combat medics use, and just further increasing the capabilities of, and then not only that, but we've painstakingly, everything that's in the kit is there for a specific purpose. It's even where it's placed in the kit in a way that's specifically placed where it is. The quality is top notch. They are at a premium price, but we really feel that the value is there when you look at what's included, the build quality, the access to these medications. And so we're really, that just back to our mission of medical preparedness. You got to have a robust first aid kit. We've got it separated into three different kind of your everyday boo-boos, your
Okay.
really massive trauma, things like massive hemorrhage from gunshot wounds or stabbings, or a bad car accident where you've got massive hemorrhage and you're needing a tourniquet. So that's the
Yeah.
middle kit. And then you've got the kind of medic kit, which has a complete wide variety of things that you'd need for just about any accident, that as much as we could do for someone who doesn't have an actual license to practice medicine.
Yeah, no, that's super, super cool. And so, who would that primarily be made for? Like, is it somebody who I guess is like going into the outdoors a lot, or is it for
Well,
even military people, or what,
yeah,
I guess?
even so really, like, it's for every parent should at least have
Yeah,
the mini kit.
for sure.
It's got some great tools in it. It's super, like, you could almost carry it in your purse. You could certainly fit it in your glove box, and you'd be surprised at how much is in there. So everybody should have that. Anyone
Yeah,
who handles firearms in any capacity absolutely should have that trauma kit, and not just those folks, but I'm just singling them out.
yeah,
So certainly hunters, but honestly, I've been uh, on the road enough, and I've come up on enough accidents where I've wished I had something like a trauma kit
yeah,
back before when I was an EMT, and I didn't have enough money to buy my own kits. Yeah, wished I had had something like this.
yeah,
And then that other one, I mean, again, I think it's powerful enough that a professional would get great use out of it, but it's accessible enough that really everyone should have it, with the education tools that it's paired with, and more that we're doing that's in the works as far as the education goes, where everyone can feel confident and competent in at least being able to stabilize a situation, but providing you the right tools. And maybe you don't have those, but someone that's with you does.
yeah,
There probably isn't a segment of the population that shouldn't have it.
yeah. No, that totally makes sense. That's really, really cool. And so, I guess, give me 1 second, sorry.
That's okay.
And so I guess my last question would be to like, I know you talked about some of the customer feedback you got and just people, like with a lot of different testimonials and stories about how it saved their vacation and things like that. What other customer feedback has kind of shaped maybe any of your product development?
Yeah, that's a great question, because actually almost everything that we've developed is through customer feedback.
Yeah.
When you're looking at medical preparedness and how wide and expansive that is, it's really easy to just kind of chase after a lot of different things and lose focus, and oh, we're going to go try this. And unless you've got some kind of validation behind what you're doing, how do you prioritize, and how do you focus in? And so that's exactly, we started with myself. I knew that there was this issue with access to antibiotics and emergency meds. Start there. It was always apparent that we would need to also provide access for daily medications for people. And I've had firsthand heartbreaking experience in disaster areas with just that issue of
Yeah.
people desperate to get their anti-seizure medication, their blood pressure medication, and had they only had, their supply on hand, they'd have been just fine.
Yeah.
But certainly some of our most requested was to get a first aid kit out there, to get a trauma kit put together. And so, another one, well, I have to be careful because then my team will get upset, because there's others that we're working on, but they're coming from customers who've requested them, and help us to validate the the market fit and demand. And so it's been actually interesting. We've been using AI lately to go through. We've got, a million emails, and
Yeah.
combing through that data and seeing which requests are surface, and kind of really digging into the data there. AI has been really useful for that, so that's been kind of fun.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Well, tell all of the listeners what is the best way to find you online? What is the best way to find Jace? And I will also include all of it in the show notes as well for easy access.
Definitely. So Jace is easy. It's just jace.com, JASE
Okay.
com. And we're also on, the company. We've got our Instagram and TikTok and all the social media channels. I myself don't do a lot, but every once in a while I will get on there and let my feelings be known on X. It's just at Shawn Rowland MD is my handle there. But jace.com, that's where you start.
Okay. Perfect. That sounds great. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Taylor.